So Jacinta, I want to ask you about your experience of unconscious bias in the workplace.
Well, you know, unconscious bias, I'd maybe even take you back to a little step before my work. When I first moved to Melbourne and I was an 18-year-old with a young child, I went to rent a flat as a single mum, and the real estate agent wouldn't rent me a flat because they weren't sure about whether I was of good character because I was a single parent, or single mother, probably more to the point, even though I had a good job at Telstra at the time. And I really thought, wow, that's interesting. I wonder if that would be the same case if I was a single man with a child, or even if I was just a single person. That was when it really, really struck me that there was, there was something underlying there. In my career, I've seen a lot of situations where things just haven't happened. The men have, the men have looked after the men, and it's still out there. And there's unconscious bias both from a female and males. It's not just males that are, have an unconscious bias. Quite often I hear, women in the office say, oh, well, so-and-so, she's probably going to have children, so maybe she won't want to.
Women saying that about other women.
Yeah. Or we don't have enough women in the pipeline, those sorts of things. There's a lot of it out there. What I think, we have to, and a lot of organisations do a training around unconscious bias, which is fantastic to hear. But it's something that needs to be discussed all the time. I think it needs to be, what is the impact of that? What does that mean for your organisation? And it's really understanding, what is it about, what's happening in our business that we're not paying attention to? And what I found is moving that conversation is when we start talking about the actual impact that women have in the organisation, both from an employee perspective, but the economic impact of women. And when you start talking, when you move the conversation away from the unconscious bias scenario, you're saying, well, what does it actually mean for business? People tend to listen a lot closer, particularly men, when you start to talk about the economic impact of women. Knowing that women make 80-90% of purchase decisions in this country, and the impact of women economic impact of women is going through the roof. Women are starting to out-earn their husbands. The buying power of women is substantial and growing at a very fast rate. When you talk about those things, men start to think, wow, this is something we really need to concentrate on. So it's moving the conversation away from how do we get more women into senior management board positions to actually what is really going on and how can we grasp this and make the most of it. And that's when the conversation changes. So I think the unconscious bias is there. It's going to take a long time to change, and it's in all of our culture. It's in the whole way we've grown up. Even if you look back at what sort of tasks you had when you were a child at home, the girls had different tasks to the boys. There's been researchers recently about, mums will pay the little boys more pocket money because they think they do harder jobs. All these sorts of things. There's a whole lot of things that have been going on in our environment that reinforce this bias. But I can see things changing, and it's going to change when you actually start to talk about the economic impact. So yes, it's there. It's not good, but it's changing.